Hey there, listeners. Grab your favorite beverage and settle in as you've just tuned into Snippets of Knowledge. I'm your host, and today we've got a treat for all you entrepreneurs, leaders, and challenge seekers alike. We're slicing through the fluff and serving you the meaty parts of The Hard Thing About Hard Things by none other than Ben Horowitz. This isn't just any business book. It's a battlefield manual from the front lines of a startup. So whether you're looking to start your own venture or trying to navigate the choppy waters of leadership, stay with us. You're about to gain some serious wisdom that could change the way you tackle your toughest business challenges. Let's dive right in. The struggle. It almost sounds poetic, doesn't it? But in the world of startups, it's anything but. Ben Horowitz doesn't sugarcoat the reality of running a startup. It's tough, it's stressful, and it can be downright brutal. Horowitz makes it clear that every entrepreneur, no matter how savvy, will inevitably face periods of sheer, agonizing difficulty where the future looks bleak and failure is just around the corner. Horowitz calls this the struggle, and boy, it's real. Now, the struggle isn't just about the external challenges, those ever-mounting pressures of the market or the competition breathing down your neck. It's equally about the internal battles, the doubts that creep into your mind at 3 a.m., the weight of responsibility that sits heavily on your shoulders every second of the day, and the loneliness that comes from being the decision maker on whose shoulders the fate of your company and the livelihood of your employees rest. But here's where it gets interesting. Horowitz argues that the struggle is not just an ordeal to endure. It's also an opportunity to forge both the company's future and your own character. It's in these moments of hardship that leaders are truly tested and great companies are born. If you can manage to embrace the struggle, navigate through it, and come out the other side, you and your startup will have evolved in ways that easy success could never achieve. So, what's the secret weapon to surviving the struggle? Well, according to Horowitz, it's the brutal truth. Face reality no matter how ugly it is. Get up close and personal with the issues at hand and tackle them head on. No wishful thinking allowed here. It's about making hard decisions, such as cutting costs or pivoting your business, all while keeping your team motivated. Horowitz doesn't just talk the talk either. He gives us a peep into his days at Opsware and how the struggle shaped his leadership style. So, as we navigate through this narrative, take a moment to reflect on your own challenges. The struggle is universal after all. But remember, when faced with adversity, there's always a move. You just have to find it. Buckle up because your greatest lessons and triumphs just might lie within the struggle. One of the standout principles from The Hard Thing About Hard Things is how to effectively manage and lead the people in your company. Here's what Ben Horowitz has to say. The health of a business is directly tied to your ability to lead and take care of your people. It's a tough line to walk, balancing the company interests with those of the individuals who make your organization what it is. Horowitz is very candid about the strains of being a CEO, especially when having to make decisions that affect employees' lives. He doesn't sugarcoat the responsibilities. Instead, he gives us an unvarnished look at the weighty role of leadership in a company's success or failure. One aspect he dives into is the art of making unpopular decisions. It's about steering the ship, even when the crew is uneasy about the direction. It's about being transparent, which builds trust, even when the news isn't good. After all, the trust you build will be the currency you'll need when making those hard calls. Horowitz also emphasizes why leading by example sets the tone for the entire company. Employees will look to the leadership for cues on behavior and work ethic. It's not enough to just talk a big game. As a leader, you're tasked with living the values and standards that you want to imbue your company with. And let's talk feedback. It's easy to shy away from providing honest feedback because, let's face it, nobody wants to be the bearer of bad news. But Horowitz discusses feedback as a gift, one that can foster growth and improvement. He advises making it a routine, a part of your company culture, ensuring it's a two-way street for better transparency and understanding. Lastly, the author gets into the nitty-gritty of keeping your people motivated. It's about understanding that motivation can't be one size fits all. It's recognizing individual contributions while also nurturing a sense of team unity and shared vision. It's eye-opening how Horowitz doesn't shy away from the complex layers of effectively managing and leading a team. He gives us hard-earned wisdom with the understanding that taking care of your people is indeed a hard thing, but quite possibly the most crucial thing. When Ben Horowitz tackles the topic of hiring and firing in The Hard Thing About Hard Things, he isn't just theorizing, he's sharing the insights gained from the trenches of his own experiences. Vital to the lifeblood of any company are the executives who drive it, and Horowitz doesn't mince words when he states, hiring is the most important thing you do. He encourages us to look beyond the resume, to dig into the substance of a candidate's character, experiences, and the specific kind of strengths that align with the company's needs. But let's talk about how difficult hiring really can be. Horowitz acknowledges the common dream of finding that perfect mix of Steve Jobs' innovation, Bill Gates' intelligence, and Gandhi's humility. But let's be real, the perfect candidate doesn't exist. Instead, he advises focusing on strengths rather than lack of weaknesses. It's not about finding candidates who don't have flaws. It's about finding candidates whose strengths are critical to your job. And what about cultural fit? Ah, yes, tricky business. Horowitz suggests that culture isn't just about social harmony, but should align with the company's values and the results you're chasing. Now, here's a hard truth. Sometimes you have to fire people, and it's never easy. But Horowitz extends an invaluable piece of advice. Do it straightforwardly and humanely. When firing someone isn't about their worth as a human being, but about the fit for the role they are in, he emphasizes clear communication and respect. One way to mitigate this tough process is through setting clear expectations from the get-go and giving honest performance feedback regularly. That way, if and when the firing conversation arrives, it's not coming out of the blue, it's part of an ongoing dialogue. And let's not glide past that gnarly issue of actually having to let an executive go. It can send shockwaves through a company. Horowitz points out that this is a time for brave, honest leadership. Be clear about the why, the how, and the what next, and make sure to reiterate the vision for the company to keep everyone aligned and moving forwards. It's about turning a tough decision into a strategic realignment. The dance of hiring and firing is a delicate one. It's a balance of intuition and process, of strength finding and clear-eyed assessing. And in these moments, the key takeaway from Horowitz might just be the courage to make the difficult decisions and the wisdom to do them with empathy and strategic foresight. We shape our companies in these moments just as much as in celebrating the wins, perhaps even more so. Developing and maintaining a strong and positive company culture isn't just an item on the checklist of running a successful business, it's the bedrock upon which all other aspects rest. So, let's delve into what Ben Horowitz has to say on this vital subject in The Hard Thing About Hard Things. Horowitz puts it bluntly, your company's culture is not what you say it is, it's what you do. Culture isn't just about having an inspirational quote painted on the wall or providing free snacks. It's about the behaviors that are rewarded and the ones that are discouraged. It's the collective behavior of your company, and it's formed by the actions and decisions of the leaders. He recounts stories from his own experiences, like when he led Opsware, and how he realized that creating a good culture is not about being nice or fair. It's about setting clear objectives, implementing processes that reflect the company's values, and sometimes making tough decisions. Not because you want to, but because they align with the culture you're striving to build. For instance, if a top performer is toxic to the team's dynamics, addressing this issue directly reflects on your commitment to maintaining a culture of teamwork and respect. Horowitz also stresses that culture extends beyond the internal workings of a company. He argues that companies should take responsibility for their role in the broader community and industry. For example, he suggests offering internships and mentoring as ways to give back and to build a culture that values growth and learning. One of the most interesting takeaways is the idea that you should create a culture that can evolve. Horowitz ponders on the nature of culture as both a constant and a variable. While your core values may remain the same, the expression of those values might need to adapt as the company grows and changes. Fostering an environment that can evolve with the changing tides of the market and society is what can differentiate a company that thrives from one that merely survives. Knowing the difference between what you aspire your company to be and what it actually is key. Understanding that difference can guide you in creating strategies that shape and nurture the culture you envision. Remember, you're not striving for perfection from the get-go. You're crafting an environment where the right traits are encouraged and the wrong ones are carefully weeded out. In essence, Ben Horowitz strips down company culture to its bare bones. It's not about perks or empty promises. It's about how you act, especially when the chips are down. It's about being a model of the behavior you expect in your team and building the foundations upon which everything else will stand. So take a moment to ask yourself, what does your company culture say about you? And is it saying what you want it to? One of the most striking things Ben Horowitz talks about in The Hard Thing About Hard Things is the concept of recognizing our own ignorance. Essentially, knowing what we don't know. He candidly speaks about the vulnerability leaders face and the necessity of addressing their blind spots. A blind spot in this context is something critical you're unaware of or fail to understand within your company or market. Horowitz isn't shy in saying that no matter how smart you are, you're likely ignorant of more things than you're an expert on, especially in the rapidly changing tech industry. Acknowledging this ignorance can actually be a powerful tool. It becomes the first step in a learning process that can lead to profound insights and better decision-making. Horowitz advises us to build a culture where employees feel empowered to provide their leaders with bad news as soon as possible, essentially encouraging transparency at all levels. This proactive approach helps in identifying issues before they fester into more significant problems. He also suggests cultivating a network of mentors and advisors who can help point out things you might miss due to your blind spots. The input from diverse perspectives can prove invaluable when navigating complex situations. Horowitz's experiences underline the importance of honest feedback loops, not just to catch the oversights, but also to ensure continuous learning and growth as a leader. Embracing the hard truth about what you don't know doesn't come naturally. It requires humility and a willingness to listen, learn, and pivot when necessary. It's about confronting the uncomfortable truths and having the courage to ask for help or advice, not as a sign of weakness, but as an undeniable strength in the unforgiving battlefield of business. In this, Horowitz teaches us that great leaders aren't those who have all the answers. They're the ones who know how to find them. So when you're leading your team through uncharted territory, remember that your blind spots don't define your capability. It's your ability to uncover and address them that really counts. Endurance and adaptability are two qualities that, according to Ben Horowitz in The Hard Thing About Hard Things, are essential for any business leader. His book doesn't just lay the groundwork for understanding these traits, but also paints a vivid picture with his own experiences. As you encounter the inevitable ups and downs of the startup world, it's your endurance that will be put to the test. Horowitz talks about enduring the pain of problem solving, which, let's be honest, is at the heart of running any business, especially a startup. When faced with what seems like an insurmountable challenge, the instinct might be to buckle. But here's where his advice kicks in. Brace yourself and push through. He compares this to being a boxer, where the ability to take a punch is just as critical as the ability to land one. Now, let's talk about adaptability. The tech landscape is always shifting, and staying static could spell disaster. Horowitz learned this firsthand. He shares experiences of times when the original vision of the company had to take a hard left turn to survive. This is called the pivot. It's about staying true to your core mission while being flexible about how to achieve it. Recognizing when a pivot is necessary and having the courage to execute it is a skill that Horowitz highlights. He acknowledges the difficulty, but maintains that it's often the difference between a company that thrives and one that dissolves. It all boils down to mental toughness and the willingness to face hard truths. The road for a CEO is lonely, and the weight of these decisions will rest on your shoulders. But as Horowitz asserts, knowing that the struggle is where character is built, where leadership skills are honed, and where true stories of success originate should be enough to gird you for the battles ahead. For those of you leading or thinking of starting a venture, remember that endurance and adaptability aren't just buzzwords. They're requisites. And sometimes the hard thing about hard things is simply having the endurance to outlast your problems and the adaptability to pivot when the path you're on leads to a dead end. Keep these lessons close because they could be what propels you from surviving to thriving. And just like that, we've zipped through Ben Horowitz's The Hard Thing About Hard Things. It's clear that there's no easy formula for running a company, but armed with the insights from today's discussion, you're a few steps closer to navigating the treacherous landscape of entrepreneurship. From embracing the struggle to understanding the significance of a great culture, it's all about the unrelenting pursuit of growth, both personally and for your business. Remember, the hard things are hard because there are no clear-cut answers or recipes for success. It's about making the tough calls when there are no right answers, something Horowitz knows a thing or two about. I hope you found value in our distilled knowledge today, and you'll join me again next time on Snippets of Knowledge. In our upcoming episode, we'll unwrap another wisdom-packed book. Be ready to uncover more gems that'll propel you forward on your journey. Until then, keep tackling the hard things one page at a time.